Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to explore the stories behind things you think you know. And today, well, we're talking Cinco de Mayo.
Right. For a lot of people, it means parties, margaritas.
Exactly, big celebrations. But here's the thing. The biggest misconception, and it catches a lot of people out, Cinco de Mayo is not Mexico's Independence Day.
Not at all. That's September 16th, a completely different story.
The real story of May 5th. It's actually about incredible bravery, sheer grit, and a truly stunning underdog victory.
We're talking about the Battle of Puebla, May 5th, 1862, a really pivotal moment.
So our mission today is to dive deep. We'll look at why this battle happened, explore the clash itself, these incredible forces, and figure out how this one day became such a huge symbol.
Especially a symbol of resilience and Mexican identity, particularly and maybe surprisingly in the United States.
Okay, let's get into it. To really get why Cinco de Mayo matters, we need to understand Mexico back in the 1860s.
Yeah, you have to picture it. Mexico was a young nation, really struggling.
Decades of internal conflict, revolutions, foreign invasions. It had taken a huge toll. And the national treasury.
Basically empty. Completely broke. The country was exhausted financially and politically vulnerable.
And leading the country was President Benito Juarez. He was a Zapotec lawyer, a really significant figure trying his best to stabilize things.
But with no money, his options were limited. So in 1861, he makes this incredibly bold move.
Audacious, you might say. He suspends all payments on Mexico's foreign debts, just stops paying.
He basically had to. There was no money to pay. But as you can imagine, the European powers, Britain, Spain, France, they weren't pleased.
Not at all. They sent warships straight to Veracruz demanding their money.
Now, Britain and Spain, they eventually negotiated. They struck a deal and pulled back their ships.
But France stayed. And it turns out they weren't just there for the money. They had much, much bigger plans.
That's right. This debt issue, it was really just the pretext France needed.
So, looking at that decision by Juarez suspending the debt, was it just desperation or was there more to it? How did it, open the door for France?
Well, it was definitely desperate, born of necessity, but it was also a gamble. You see, for young nations then, debt wasn't just financial, it was political leverage for the big European powers.
A way to interfere, basically.
Exactly. Unpaid debts were often the excuse for intervention, for trying to install friendly regimes. So Juarez's move, while financially unavoidable, was also kind of a defiant act of sovereignty.
And that defiance gave France the opening it wanted.
Precisely. It allowed France to escalate beyond just debt collection and push forward with its own imperial agenda.
And behind that agenda was Napoleon III, nephew of the Napoleon Bonaparte, ruling France at the time.
And he had this grand vision. He wasn't just thinking small scale. He wanted to expand French power right into the Americas. Empire building 2.0, you could call it.
And the timing was perfect for him, wasn't it?
Absolutely perfect. Because the United States was tearing itself apart in the Civil War.
Right. The Union was completely preoccupied, couldn't really enforce the Monroe Doctrine, the policy telling Europe to stay out of the Americas.
So Napoleon III saw his chance. A wide open door. His plan. Install a European monarch in Mexico, someone loyal to France, essentially creating a puppet state.
A French foothold in the Americas.
And maybe even support the Confederacy, to weaken the U.S. further and shift the whole balance of power in the New World. It was incredibly ambitious.
And the army he sent, these weren't raw recruits.
Oh, no. These were seasoned French soldiers, considered among the best in the world. Disciplined, very well armed, veterans from wars across Europe and Africa.
A formidable force. Their goal was Mexico City, the capital.
But the road to Mexico City went through a key city, Puebla. They had to take Puebla first.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. This audacious plan, the geopolitical stakes. What was really driving Napoleon III beyond just collecting debt? Why Mexico?
Look, Napoleon III was sharp. He saw the U.S. Civil War not just as a problem for America, but as a strategic gift for France. It put the Monroe Doctrine on hold, effectively.
Gave him breathing room.
Exactly. Breathing room to reassert European influence and Mexico. It was the perfect target. Huge resources, strategic location with ports on both oceans, and potentially a strong Catholic counterweight to the Protestant U.S.
So it wasn't just about money. It was about reshaping the whole map.
Absolutely. Redrawing the map of the Americas to France's advantage, Puebla was just the first step on that road.
Right. So let's unpack the situation on the ground in Puebla. Who was waiting for this powerful French army?
On the Mexican side, the commander was General Ignacio Zaragoza. He was young, only 33.
And interestingly, born in Texas back when it was part of Mexico.
That's right, in Goliad. He wasn't known for being flamboyant, more of a quiet, determined leader. Crucially, his men trusted him deeply.
And his army. What did they look like compared to the French veterans?
It was a stark contrast, maybe 4,000, perhaps 5,000 troops at most. And many weren't professional soldiers.
Who were they then?
Farmers, local villagers, indigenous fighters, many bringing whatever they had. Old muskets, machetes. Some accounts even mention farm tools being used as weapons.
Wow. Okay, and facing them.
The French, led by Commander Charles de Lorence, a larger force, maybe 6,000 to 8,000 strong, and vastly better equipped.
And their attitude?
Supremely confident, arrogant even. There's that famous quote from one French officer boasting they'd be dining in Mexico City in just a few weeks.
So you've got this massive gap. Training, weapons, numbers, confidence. It's the classic underdog story setting up.
Absolutely. The odds looked impossible for the Mexicans.
It's almost hard to picture. What must that have felt like for Zaragoza and his men, knowing what was coming? That imbalance must have been intense.
It must have been daunting, no question. But I think it also forged a different kind of strength. The French expected an easy win. Their confidence bordered on hubris.
They underestimated them.
Completely. The Mexicans, on the other hand, weren't fighting for some distant emperor's glory. They were fighting for their homes, their land, their families, the actual sovereignty of their country.
That's a powerful motivator.
Immensely powerful. That desperation, that connection to the land, it gave them a resilience, an X factor that pure military might couldn't account for.
Okay, so the stage is set. It's May 5th, 1862. What were the conditions like outside Puebla that day?
Pretty grim, actually. It had been raining heavily. The fields were just sticky, thick mud, really treacherous ground.
And the city itself was defended.
Yes,
Yeah.
primarily by two key forts perched on hills overlooking the approach, Fort Laredo and Fort Guadalupe. Strong defensive positions.
So the French attack begins.
At dawn, cannons start roaring. The French infantry in those famous tight formations begin marching uphill, straight towards the forts.
Disciplined professional.
But the Mexicans were ready. They opened up from behind the stone walls, musket fire, cannon shots, and it wasn't just soldiers.
What do you mean?
Civilians from Puebla joined the defense. Reports say they were throwing rocks, pouring boiling water, using anything they could find to help push back the French assaults.
Incredible. An all hands effort.
Yeah.
And the French. Did they just push through?
They tried. They launched multiple assaults, but they struggled badly, especially in that mud.
Ah, the mud.
Yeah, picture their cavalry famous units trying to charge through what was essentially a bog. Horses sinking, formations breaking down into chaos. The mud was like another defender for Mexico.
So the French momentum stalls.
It does. And then mid-afternoon, General Zaragoza sees his chance. He orders a counterattack.
The moment of decision.
And those Mexican fighters, many of them, the farmers and villagers we mentioned, armed with machetes, they sweep down from the hills.
Against the professional French soldier.
Against the struggling, bogged-down French soldiers, and they push them back. When the fighting finally died down, the result was just stunning.
What act?
The French army, one of the world's best, was retreating. They'd lost nearly 500 men killed or wounded.
And the Mexican.
Fewer than 100 casualties. It was unbelievable. Mexico had won the battle.
Wow. Just, wow, it sounds almost miraculous. Beyond just the mud and the sheer will to fight, what were the key tactical elements here? How did they pull it off?
Well, it's fascinating when you break it down. It was kind of a perfect storm. The weather, the mud that was huge. It neutralized the French cavalry's advantage and totally disrupted their infantry tactics.
It levered the playing field a bit.
Absolutely. Then there was Zaragoza's strategy, putting his forces in those hilltop forts, Laredo and Guadalupe. That forced the French into costly uphill assaults against fortified positions. Smart move.
Using the terrain.
Exactly. And finally, you just can't discount the morale. The Mexicans were fighting with this incredible intensity, defending their homeland. That transformed, basic weapons into something incredibly potent, especially in that final counterattack.
So it was terrain, tactics, and spirit all coming together.
A combination that overcame superior firepower and training, at least on that day.
Okay, now this is a really important point to make clear. This incredible victory at Puebla, it wasn't the end of the war, right?
No, not by a long shot. That's crucial to understand. The French regrouped. A year later, they came back with massive reinforcements, tens of thousands more troops.
And this time?
This time they did capture Puebla and they marched on to take Mexico City. They eventually installed Maximilian of Habsburg as the Emperor of Mexico. So militarily, Puebla's victory it was temporary.
But it clearly still mattered. Hugely. Why? If the war wasn't won there.
Because its impact went way beyond the immediate military situation. It gave Mexico hope. It proved that the mighty French army could be beaten.
A symbol.
A powerful symbol of national resilience for Juarez's government, which had to flee but continued the resistance. It was that David versus Goliath moment. It showed the world, and Mexicans themselves, that they wouldn't be easily conquered.
It fueled the resistance.
Exactly. It became a rallying cry.
So connecting this to the bigger picture. If the French eventually won that phase of the war, why does this one battle stick in our minds so much? What was its lasting significance?
The psychological boost was immense. You can't overstate it. Even with later defeats, Puebla became this foundational story of Mexican defiance.
It changed the narrative.
Precisely. It wasn't just a battle won, it was a narrative forged. It showed resistance was possible. It bought Juarez's government crucial time to regroup and continue the fight elsewhere. And internationally, it signaled that France's adventure in Mexico wasn't going to be the cakewalk Napoleon III expected.
It slowed them down, maybe gave the U.S. time later on.
Potentially, yes. It complexified the whole French intervention. That symbolic power, that morale boost, arguably had a longer-lasting impact than the temporary military gains the French made later.
That makes a lot of sense. So this incredibly symbolic battle happens in Puebla. How does it become the holiday primarily celebrated? Well, not so much in Mexico, but in the U.S.
Yeah, that's one of the most surprising twists in this story. Cinco de Mayo didn't immediately become a major national holiday in Mexico.
Really? Where did it take off then?
It gained significant traction first among Mexican Americans, especially out in California during the 1860s.
California. Why there?
There's a fascinating connection to the U.S. Civil War, which was happening at the exact same time. Many Mexican Americans saw the fight against the French imperialists in Mexico as directly linked to the Union's fight against slavery and for democracy.
Two battles for freedom happening side by side.
Kinda, yeah. They saw it as democracy versus monarchy, freedom versus empire. The victory at Puebla resonated deeply with those ideals.
So they started celebrating it.
Yes, early on. Mexican immigrant communities in places like Los Angeles, San Francisco, they held parades, gave speeches, played music on May 5th. It was a way to express pride in their heritage and show solidarity with the cause in Mexico, which they linked to the Union cause.
So it became a symbol of identity for them in the U.S.
Exactly. Over decades, it grew into this really important expression of Mexican identity and heritage within the United States.
And then came the more modern celebrations.
Right. Much later, in the late 20th century, corporations, particularly beer companies, saw a marketing opportunity. They heavily promoted Cinco de Mayo.
Which made it much more mainstream.
Definitely. It became a widespread celebration of Mexican culture, which is great in many ways, but sometimes, the focus shifted more towards the party and less towards the actual history of the Battle of Puebla.
That evolution is really something. What does that tell us about how holidays travel and change?
It really shows how holidays aren't static things. They get adopted, adapted, transformed by new communities and new contexts. For those early Mexican Americans, Cinco de Mayo was a powerful political statement.
About freedom and justice.
Absolutely. Later, commercialization brought it to a wider audience, but also perhaps diluted some of that original historical punch. The meaning evolves with the people celebrating it.
Meaning definitely shifts. Which brings us back to clearing up the confusion. Let's nail this down. Fact versus fiction.
Okay. The absolute number one thing, Cinco de Mayo is not Mexico's Independence Day.
Cannot stress that enough. Mexico's Independence Day is September 16th. That commemorates the call to revolution against Spain back in 1810 by Father Hidalgo. Totally different event, different century even.
Correct. Cinco de Mayo commemorates one specific battle, the Battle of Puebla, on May 5th, 1862. An incredible battle, but just one battle in a longer war.
And the way it's celebrated is different too, isn't it?
Very different. In Mexico, it's primarily a regional holiday, celebrated most significantly in Puebla itself, often with parades and battle reenactments. It's not a major national holiday like September 16th.
But in the U.S.?
In the U.S., it's become arguably one of the biggest, most visible celebrations of Mexican culture and heritage all year. Much bigger in terms of public awareness than it is in most of Mexico.
Okay, for everyone listening, boil it down.
Yeah.
Beyond the dates, what's the core difference they should remember between September 16th and May 5th?
Think of it like this. September 16th is about the birth of the Mexican nation breaking free from Spain. It's the foundational independence story. Cinco de Mayo is about defending that nation, later on resisting a new foreign invasion and asserting sovereignty against incredible odds.
Birth versus defense.
Exactly. One is national genesis, the other is national resilience. Both incredibly important parts of Mexican history and pride, but distinct moments.
That's a great way to put it. So, wrapping this all up, why does this story, the Battle of Puebla, still resonate? Why do we talk about it?
Well, I think it's more than just history, isn't it? It's that timeless appeal of the underdog.
Right, that universal story of people refusing to give in, even when everything seems stacked against them.
And think about who won that battle. Zaragoza was the general, yes, but the fighters, those farmers, villagers, indigenous people, they weren't elite soldiers.
Ordinary people doing something extraordinary.
Exactly. Fighting with incredible conviction for their land, their families, their country's right to exist. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes determination, belief, and courage can change things. They can achieve the seemingly impossible.
It really speaks to resilience, to pride, across any culture, any time.
Absolutely. It's a story that continues to inspire.
So the next time Cinco de Mayo comes around, maybe think beyond the fiesta for a moment. Remember that muddy hillside near Puebla. Remember the courage shown there. It's a day rooted in resilience, pride, and that enduring spirit of the underdog.
A truly remarkable moment in history.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the real story of Cinco de Mayo. We hope you found it illuminating.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
And here's something to think about as we finish. What other seemingly small victories, maybe overlooked battles or moments in history, ended up having a symbolic power far greater than their immediate impact, shaping identity and inspiring people for generations in ways no one expected at the time? Something to mull over. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.